Hi students, my name is Sunana. Welcome again to learn the subject of social studies. Today we shall be learning about the freedom movement. We've already seen the first war of Indian independence take place. We also learnt about various reasons for its failure. Now the Indians have learned their lesson on its failure, and they want to put up a more united front. They feel for India as a nation. They have raised above the thoughts of, small kingdom. Oh, I want to be the king, I want to be the queen. Now they understand what is it to be like a united single nation, a country. And that's how the freedom movement begins, where they want freedom from the foreign rule of the British for the entire country of India, and not just to become a small king or a queen of a small part of India. So let us look at what all happens in this chapter. We will learn about how this feeling of nationalism, it rose. We will learn about how this Indian National Congress was formed, and we will learn about moderates, radicals and revolutionaries. They are all freedom fighters, but they have a different way of achieving freedom. Moderates would take moderate measures, like they want to sign petitions, they want to be very non-violent, they want to talk to the British and solve it. The radicals, they want to have aggressive protests, and the revolutionaries are open to taking violent ways to bring the British rule to an end. We will learn about all of them in detail in this chapter. Students, we have seen now that the Indian freedom movement has come to a phase where people have become more aware about the thought of nationalism. It has come to a very important phase for the whole of country of India. Before this, we used to see kings who fought against the foreign occupation, but these fights had limited political goals. But since they were fought against the foreign rule, it can still be considered as the beginning or the start of nationalism. During the second half of the 19th century, we saw that the British expanded their railways, communication, telegram networks, journalism, and we also saw a lot of cultural associations that were formed. But the people, they were suffering. Why were they suffering? There was a famine, one of the greatest famine that hit India. There were a lot of hardships for farmers that were created by the British rule because of extensive tax demands. So there were a lot of agitations by these farmers, by the tribals in the forest. The agitations are a proof that people are not happy with the British rule. Indians who were suffering in the hands of the British, especially in the hands of the East India Company, they all fought the first war of Indian independence. As a result of this, we already saw the rule of the English East India Company came to an end, and the British government took over the rule of India. Then, if you remember, students, in the Queen's Charter, she proclaimed that now we will associate with the Indians when we make laws. The policy of association was adopted. So in the year 1861, the participation of Indians was ensured in the legislation process. As a result, there were a lot of Indians who were educated. They started sharing the idea of nationalism. They started talking about the feeling of oneness, that we all belong to this one country of India, through their journals, through their newspapers, through their books. They used to write these and spread these thoughts among the masses of the Indians. Indian National Congress is the institutional expression of this. Now a lot of Indians know, okay, there is nationalism, we are all Indians, but what can we do? So they formed a group, a party called the Indian National Congress. It was an institution where all of these educated Indians came together, and they said, we will do something about freedom so that we don't have the foreign rule over us. A quick recap. We saw that the Indians were fighting against the British as kings because they had political goals. Later we saw that the English East India Company was removed and the British government directly took responsibility to govern India as a country. They started the policy of association through which Indians now participated in making laws. They started spreading the word of nationalism, and as a result of that an institution was born. This institution is called the Indian National Congress. Students, this is the background of what is happening in India, both from the British point of view and the Indian point of view. So the first war of Indian independence led to development of political awakening in India. People are now more aware as to who is ruling us, what are laws, what is administration. They know things. Many educated youth provided leadership to various associations. So Indians formed a lot of associations in different parts of the country, all to arouse the feeling of nationalism amongst the people of India. Which of these associations are important? You should know at least 3 of them. The Hindu Mela, All India Association, Pune Public Sabha and the Indian Association are important. Newspapers that oppose the stance of the government. So let's say the government is making a law that says 50% is the rate of tax. They used to write in the papers, how is 50% tax fair? They used to write these things so that people are more aware about the laws that were being made. A law called the Vernacular Press Act was passed by Viceroy Lytton. What was this Vernacular Press Act? Students, vernacular is the language that we speak as our mother tongue. So a lot of Indians who believed in nationalistic thought, they used to write in vernacular languages like Kannada, Tamil, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi and so on. So Lord Lytton passed this law called the Vernacular Press Act. According to this act, the freedom of press, freedom of whatever you wanted to write, if there is a law passed by the government and you want to criticize it, you are allowed to freely criticize it. But as per this Vernacular Press Act, this independence of press was taken away or it was curbed. So as a result, Indians were unhappy. So they formed this association to show their unhappiness, to protest in a legal way against the British rule. And so the Indian National Congress was formed. The Indian National Congress, which changed the direction of the Indian political history, was born in a national convention. Convention means a gathering where a lot of Indians had met to discuss what is nationalism, what can we do about it. A convention is a gathering where all these Indians met. It was held at Bombay in 1885. Is this date important? Is the place important? Very, very important. Who was the first president? W.C. Banerjee. Even his name is very, very important. The place, the date, the first president, all the 3 are very important. They can ask anything as a fill in the blank for 1 mark. Hume played an important role in the formation of Indian National Congress. Students, I will tell you what the British thought. Why did they support the formation of Indian National Congress? So Indian National Congress was like a meeting where all these Indians who are frustrated, who see problems with the British rule, they come openly and they discuss. They talk about the problems and they think about what they can do. The British supported this because they felt at least we will come to know what these people are talking. They will come and talk to us instead of running a Sipai mutiny. They cannot afford for a war. If a war takes place like the first war of Indian independence, the British can't afford it because it leads to loss of people, loss of money. They cannot focus on trade and business. So they thought, we will support them to form this group. We will try to show them that yes, we are listening to them. So they also supported the formation of Indian National Congress as a very smart strategy. Hume was a retired British civil servant and met political leaders in cities like Madras, Bombay and Calcutta and discussed these issues of public importance with all of these Indian leaders. As a result of these deliberations, when they discussed, these discussions were called deliberations, the Congress declared, what did they declare is the main aim of Congress? National unity as its primary aim during its first national convention. So they decided that we just want everyone to become united. They tried to achieve this unity among the diverse cultural and social parts of India. The leaders of this period had to commit to achieve it. The newspapers they published in vernacular languages enabled people to come out and discuss on various social issues. As a result, all of these political issues, it reached people because of the vernacular press. Students, let's do a quick recap. We saw that the Vernacular Press Act was passed by Viceroy Lytton and the Indian National Congress was born. They said that their main aim is to achieve unity amongst the Indians. But what did the British do? The British made a policy of divide and rule. They started noticing if Indians become united, if they come together, we will be removed from this country. So they made a very smart policy of divide and rule. What do we mean by divide and rule? They told the Muslims, we will give you seat in the government. We will give you representation. You should not support the Hindus in the Congress. You should not join the Congress. So like this, they made a lot of ways through which they divided the Indians. The British employed the policy of divide and rule to break the unity amongst the Indians. But the Indian National Congress still tried its best to keep everyone united. Even though a lot of difference of opinion rose in the Congress, they still tried to be united. But eventually, their differences grew so much that they employed different ways to get freedom and they became three parts: moderates, radicals, revolutionaries. Now we will look at this. Moderates. Students, the moderates believed that the British want to rule India in a good way, but they don't know how to. They thought because the British don't know the Indian language, they have not born and brought up in India, they don't know what the problems really are. So they thought if they go and tell them that we are facing these problems, maybe they will be interested in solving them. And even after they saw that the British knows the problem, they didn't want to do any violent protest. They only thought about collecting petitions from people and going and giving that in a very lawful way to the British and requesting them, praying to them, saying, solve this problem, solve this issue for the people. So they believed in prayer and petition. Traditionally, the 20 years of Indian National Congress is called as the age of moderates. So from 1885 to 1905, 20 years is called as the age of moderates. Who were the important freedom fighters who were considered moderates? W.C. Banerjee, M.G. Ranade, Surendranath Banerjee, Dadabhai Nauroji, Gopalakrishna Gokhale were the important moderate leaders. You all should know at least three names. Moderates had faith. They believed in the rule of the British and judiciary of the British. They believed that British knew justice. They used to table their demands. They used to write their demands with the framework of the constitution through prayers and requests, and they would go request saying, you have made the constitution. According to that, you have to give us these things. They tried to bring in political awareness among the people. They organized meetings. They would organize like a public meeting, a gathering where they would talk about a lot of issues. They discussed various burning issues and submitted memorandums to the government. They would write to the government, we have seen that there is a famine here, but you are still charging 50% tax. Please do not charge 50% tax. We see that you have passed this law, but this law is not right for Indians. Can you see to it that you remove this law? So they used to write prayers with faith in the British rule. They submitted these memorandums. They used to write these memorandums, make a lot of Indians sign it, and they would go and give it to the British. They would demand cutting down of military expenditure, development of Indian industries, providing good education, programs for poverty alleviation. So these were the things they demanded from the British government. They were the first to study the ill effects of the British rule in India. Dadabhai Naoroji wrote a theory called the drain of wealth. They realized through this theory how India, which was such a prosperous country because of the British rule, has lost all its wealth. And that theory that Dadabhai Naoroji called is called the drain of wealth theory or drain theory. Students, what is this draining of wealth theory? So, Indians were forced to grow cotton. Now, if they are being forced to grow cotton, they can also make cotton textiles and sell this cloth all over the world, right? No. But they were forced to not make industries that can make cloth from cotton. They were forced to export all the cotton to England for a very, very, very low price. And now, in England, the British made cloth, and that cloth was forcefully sold to Indians at a very high price. So you're being forced to sell the cotton, you're not allowing us to make the cloth, which we can ourselves make at a lower price. And you're also forcing us to buy at such a high price. Imagine how much loss of wealth. And the cotton I gave you is just an example. They did it across all the industries. So by increasing the import, we are being forced to import or buy from England, and reducing the export. We are only allowed to export raw materials and not finished products. The British facilitated the draining out of precious Indian resources into India. Just like how Dadabhai Naoroji said, R.C. Dutt too published books explaining the draining of Indian resources to England. The period of moderates is called as the age of liberal nationalism. From 1885 to 1905 is called the age of moderates or the age of liberal nationalism. Now students, let us do a quick recap. So we saw the important leaders who were moderates. We saw what were the methods they followed to help British rule better. They followed the policy of prayer, petition and submitting memorandums to the British. We also saw the age of moderates is called the age of liberal nationalism.